long as you're like looking this way, you're fine. Yeah.
This is your captain speaking.
Game
We are
time.
making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host to my left, the fight analyst Dan Tom. Back east, producing as always, Danny Otto, and our special co-host for the day, UFC lightweight and recent Fox Sports analyst, Michael Chiesa.
Oh man, thank you.
What's up, man?
It's good to be back. Good to be back here in Las Vegas, and just gearing up for July 7th. It's kind of becoming my home away from home now, so I'm starting to settle in, and I'm enjoying it.
As in maybe a permanent move?
Not a permanent move, but I'd like to split my time. You know, I'm really definitely plugged into the PI in terms of the training program I'm on, and I'm working well with John Wood. Things are syncing up. You know, I spend time training back home when I'm there. I'm getting the best of both worlds, but I'll be around here more. And it's nice because I have my team from Spokane. They come down here too. I got Austin Arnett coming, Rick Little will show up, and then I'm just putting it all together. Not a permanent move, but I can see myself getting a little condo down here and maybe a cheap car.
Tell me 3 things you like about Vegas. You already said the UFC PI. Leave that one out.
And leave MMA Junkie Radio out. We already going
Dang,
that route, so
that leaves the
3 other ones.
I don't got much left.
And no Spearmint Rhino either.
No Spearmint Rhino. You know, I haven't enjoyed I'm more of a Crazy Horse 3 type guy.
Okay.
First and foremost, it's not just the PI. I know the PI is out of the equation, but I just really enjoy being around the UFC staff. You know what I mean? Like, aside from the Performance Institute, I've made a lot of friends over the years. Chris Provino and a lot of different guys that work for the UFC. So it's good to be around them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy Syndicate MMA. Love having John Wood around as a coach. He's freaking awesome. And the other thing I enjoy is I like sports betting.
Okay.
Not that I do it a ton, but I really enjoy. I enjoy. It's like a fun thing for me to come down, make a couple bets, a couple parlays.
Yeah, I saw you up there, and I was like, he doesn't look like he's asking, what time the snack bar opens or anything.
No, I was collecting my second paycheck off James Vick, so I got paid once when I knocked him out, and I make a little bet on him. I know he's a good fighter, so made a little money off him.
The one in Austin?
Fight. Yeah, I had to collect on it. So yeah.
You said sports. Is that everything? Like Cleveland Cavaliers?
Mainly fighting. Mainly fighting. That's the big thing about it too. Is I think why I enjoy Las Vegas a lot is it really is the fight capital of the world. This is the mecca for combat sports, So I just enjoy being here, and it's just combat sports kind of everywhere you go. Everything is UFC, boxing, MMA, and as you guys know, it's my favorite thing in the world. So it's just good to be around. It's just a part of the culture,
Can I make a suggestion to help bridge that gap from Washington to Vegas?
Yeah.
Tonight, the Golden Knights play, and outside of T-Mobile, everybody who doesn't have a ticket congregates in there. They drink, they have fun, and they watch it on the big jumbotron. You should go there and check it out.
If they serve water, I'm in.
They do.
I think I'd like to see them rally back. They're at a big deficit that nobody's ever came back from down 3-1 in. Yeah.
In Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Maybe it was like some crazy big number.
I mean, it could be like quarterfinals or semifinals or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to look at that because I know that the Capitals have been have lost 3-1 leads, but I don't know if it was in a Stanley Cup situation or first round.
I think
or whatever.
it was just overall playoffs. And
I think it was Stanley Cup. I think nobody's ever came back.
Okay, in the Stanley Cup,
3-1 deficit, and I'm pulling for the Knights. Not that they're my first team, but
who is your first team? Because
Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
was just about to say Washington doesn't really have anything, but
no, we have. My uncle's a sports psychologist for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I'm kind of plugged in with Tampa. You know, I like going down there and stuff. And a Spokane boy, Tyler Johnson, plays for the Lightning, number 9. So, you know, he's a really good hockey player. So I'm Tampa Bay, but you know what? I'll take the Knights too. I'm not one of those guys that I gotta have a couple teams in each sport, so I can't just pick one. It's hard.
And Vancouver, did you ever cozy up to them even when you were younger or nothing?
No, actually, when I was a kid, I liked San Jose Sharks. So I played a little hockey when I was a kid, so I liked San Jose Sharks, and I moved on to I was a big Red Wings fan for a long time.
Right.
Long time I was all about the Red Wings, but you know, once Tyler
Steve Yzerman, like that era?
Yeah, that era. Okay. Yeah, like NHL 2004 was like the ultimate game.
We were just talking about because.
Don't you feel old now? Because you just said 2004. The game we were talking about was 93.
That's why I just I had to drink that one down. I was like, yeah, NHL 2004. Ooh.
But how old are you?
Good. 30.
30, okay. So we were just laughing yesterday. We were having a little bit of video game nostalgia. But what was it? It goes like 95 when they fucked up and made Gretzky like really aggressive, right? I mean, he was already a superstar, but he was never like an aggressive checker or anything.
No,
like
a finesse player.
He's finesse, yeah, exactly. And so I used to play with either Dennis Savard or Jeremy Roenick, and he would play with Gretzky. And so my strategy was if I couldn't beat you, I had to figure something out. And so what I would do is when the game started, immediately I would just check him. And Gretzky would fall back, and there would be blood that came out of his head, right? Yeah. I mean, it was like a real graphic game. And this is NHL. What was it?
Genesis.
It was Genesis, but what was the EA Sports, right?
Hmm? Yeah.
And I would knock him out of the game, and he'd get so pissed off. And but there was little workarounds on little things you could do with video games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, the old ones.
Yeah.
Little hacks.
In baseball, I had this guy that would always great home run hitter.
Yeah.
So he would beat him every time because eventually your guy charges the mound.
Yeah.
And kick him out of the game. So at least I didn't have to deal with that guy. You know what I mean?
Jeez. My thing was when we played NBA Jam, the rule was nobody can pick the Pacers because you have Reggie Miller and you can drain half-court shots nonstop. Oh, yeah. So everybody, my team was the Charlotte Hornets. You got Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues. Muggsy Bogues on that game is like just a fly.
Yeah.
Hard to cover, but with Reggie Miller, it was like nobody can be the Pacers.
Speaking of shooting from downtown, yesterday the Warriors. I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want. Even if I say it, I'm not jinxing it. And if I do, I don't give a shit because I don't care much about the Warriors or the Cavs. But did you see Kevin Durant pull up? He was closer to the half-court line.
Same shot from Game 3 last time.
Yeah, than he was to the three-point line. That's insane. Really it was a low percentage shot. And if he misses, I think Kerr would be like, what the fuck? Drive. I mean, do something. But he drains it, and what can you do? And I mean, he iced those guys. It's 3-0 over there. There's one more game in Cleveland. But you talk about insurmountable. If we're sweating 3-1, imagine 3-0. But Michael was right. Tonight is Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yep. The Knights need to win, or the Capitals celebrate here in Vegas.
Ooh.
As far as the other game,
that stings.
Cleveland does host over there, but you could just tell they were deflated. That's a wrap over.
They only would have had a chance if they would have won that first game. They win that first game,
right?
They got
because it would have been what happened with Boston.
Yeah, they would have had to win the first game, and they would have had to win last night.
Yeah.
Game 1 and 4 were very crucial, and for Kevin Durant, that's where not only do you get your confidence because you're a phenomenal basketball player, but you get your confidence that you're up 3-0 in the series. Screw it, I'm just going to pull up.
And Curry was 1 of 14.
Yeah, he didn't have a great game at all.
But when he needed to hit one, he did hit one.
Yeah.
But that was a very winnable game for the Cavs. Game 1 was very winnable for the Cavs, but they just couldn't get it done.
In all sports right now, that's a very remarkable team. I mean, the star power that we've seen it fail. Putting too much star power on a team, it doesn't work. But those guys make it work. They have a phenomenal team, and I'm not a fan. I'm a diehard Knicks fan, but it
You're
is
all over the place, Michael Chiesa.
I know. What can I say? I'm a traveler. I'm all over.
He's like, who do you like in the World Cup? Argentina?
But they're a remarkable team. They do a great job in all sports.
Today we'll be talking to, aside from Michael and us talking about UFC 226 and Pettis and his run over there at Fox Sports, we'll also talk about the latest news. PFL 1 tonight, NBC Sports.
Lance Palmer.
Yeah, Lance Palmer is getting down in the co-main event versus Bakbulet Magomedov. We broke that down yesterday.
The name or the fight?
Both. Yeah, really. The main event's even tougher. What's his name again? Turkshanov or something?
Oh, Jimabek Turshan.
Yeah, I had to say that one a few times. He faces Andre Harrison. So featherweights, heavyweights tonight.
Yep.
PFL, also UFC 225. Stuff going down already in Chicago. We'll preview a few of those fights. Tyler Diamond, who won on yesterday's episode of The Ultimate Fighter, episode 8. He represents Team Cormier. He will be a guest of ours. We'll talk about the episode. And he now moves on to the semifinals. Remember, there are 16 competitors, but they're split into 8-8. So they were already quarterfinalists. By winning, he now makes it to the semifinals of the featherweight. Also, they announced the pairings for next week, and they have 2 pairings of Cormier versus Miocic and 2 pairings where 2 guys from each team will be facing each other. In the end, I'll sum it up. A couple of Cormier fighters weren't able to continue, so Team Miocic fighters were able to step in and get their second chance. Chiesa's probably going, oh, that's an easy season. Yeah, you had to do 13 weeks, right?
Yeah, we had 13 weeks. I fought my last 3 fights in 4 weeks.
God,
Al fought his last 3 fights in 3 weeks.
Those guys have done I think they used to take 6 weeks to film the show. I think they get it done either from in 4 or 5 now. And you guys went more than double.
Yeah.
That season. It was the only season that was ever live.
The only season that was past 6 weeks was the first, and they did 8 weeks. But hey, that's fine. I heard they may give the show a break after this next season. I'm cool with that because all 16 guys have made it in the house. We are the kings of tough. We did the 13-week grind. So
yeah, and they got Dana White Contender Series.
That's awesome.
That can definitely,
love it.
I think, fill a little bit of a void if they elect to do that.
Yeah.
Who knows? The partnership with ESPN starts in 2019, and I'm sure ESPN has some ideas. Hey, we'll also be talking to Yves Edwards, who's part of the broadcast team out at PFL. We'll preview a couple fights with him. He has worked for Fox Sports, former UFC vet, former everything vet, right? He's been everywhere.
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah,
he's been around.
He'll we'll talk to him about that. He's out in New York, so it should be a fun show. Now, if you want to call in, it's 866-522-2846. Did you want to say something?
I want to go back to Tough real quick because
Yeah.
I want to get your opinion on something.
Yeah.
If you're a coach on Tough, what do you think carries more street cred? Winning the seat, like just having more victories as a team, or if you have the one guy that wins the whole show?
Gosh, that's a tough call. It's kind of a combination of the two, you know what I mean? On our season, both teams went back and forth, you know what I mean? There was really never a definitive number as to who got the most wins, you know what I mean? I think we beat Cruz's team by 2 fights. And ultimately we came down with the champion, but it's just kind of summed up as a whole, you know what I mean? There's been seasons where they've had a champion, but the team didn't function well, and it's reality television. You got to remember that too. So it's also how the public perceives it. What if one team just stomps a mud hole in the other one's ass, wins everyone's fights, they get the champion, but on TV they're just a bunch of jerks, you know what I mean? It's it's kind of, that's where the reality television aspect comes into play. But that's a tough question.
Did it take you a while to get used to those cameras? Like, when did you just forget they were there?
I never really forgot they were there. You just kind of this is going to sound kind of mean. It's like if you go to someone's house and it smells funny and you walk in the door, you're like, God, this place kind of stinks. But after you're there for about a half hour, you don't really smell it anymore. You're just kind of there. You know what I mean? So it's it's not that I'd never just they just became invisible to me. It was just, you just kind of get used to it.
I can't relate to that because my next step after that is, wait a minute, did it attach itself to me? And now it's part of me and I don't know that? Am I going to bring this back to my car? The worst smell?
That's true.
I know what you're talking about. Like, pet smell is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the one I hate the most is fart in the couch smell, where the cushion, as soon as you sit down, the air puff. And then you go, oh man, this guy's just been farting into
Whose
this couch.
couches have you been sitting on?
Yeah, dude. There's a really, I'll tell you during the break, you know
Really?
one of them, and
I
it was
do?
the worst one ever.
So somebody had farted.
If you
The
fart
smell
too
was
much
into-
into your couch, depending on what
and
the
then when
fabric
someone
is,
else
it'll stay
sat
there.
on it, the fart smell
The
came out.
Yeah,
poop,
so
the
it
poop
makes the
particles
poof. You
go
know,
back
so
up
it makes
in
the
the air,
poof, and then that's when the air comes out. So it's basically like if you turned on your air conditioning or something, the first poof.
Oh.
Of
Have
just
you ever
farts.
farted, parked your car? We'll use this show, for example. Have you ever farted, parked the car, went and did hours worth of errands, half hours worth of errands, or done the show or whatever, then when you got back out, thought, ooh, there's still that funk. Like, because
No.
you have to roll up your
Wow.
windows. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I've done that before. I was like,
Really?
oh, man.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
we've all,
not like
I
the
think we've
initial.
all done that before.
Holy shit.
We probably don't remember, but if somebody was to say, no, I've never done that, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Have you ever? This
Don't
is
tell
one
me
of
you
the
haven't
scariest
crop
things.
dusted a trail.
Oh, I was just telling him 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I had a meatball sandwich with a Caesar salad,
You
and I paid my
lucky
bill, and I
man.
was like, God, that was a great sandwich. And everyone's going to be proud of me because I had a salad to balance it out. All right, cool. As I stand up, and I'm just kind of straightening out my pants and all that, all of a sudden I go, oh, what was that? Because my stomach just kind of went, "Whoa." And I was like, oh, okay. Just take notice here.
Yeah.
And this was upstairs, and I go, okay, I'm just going to get back to the studio. But as I was walking, Michael Chiesa, it was like someone had planted, like one of the meatballs was like a little bomb or something.
God,
Because
what was
as
in that
I was
meat?
walking, I was thinking, what is going on? Like, this is starting to hurt a little. And I'm talking to myself, right? And I go, okay, this one's going to be bad, And as I was walking, every step I took, every time my ass cheeks kind of opened for that step, I was just leaving this trail. It was a crop dust.
Yeah. Just
And
a slow,
I felt
steady
so
stream.
guilty that I didn't walk in a straight line. I was walking in and out of stores because I know anybody that it was so bad. Somebody would have went, dude, you're dying. Seriously, go wipe your ass or something. And I didn't want to get embarrassed, so I was just doing the zigzag and all that.
But with the potency of that, you essentially left a big trail to where people still probably walked into it, but you just were like,
Oh, yeah,
you're
I
like
was gone.
You were Houdini.
I
You
was
weren't
long
there-
gone.
you
The
weren't there to be
kiosks,
seen.
were blocking me and all that. And it happened to me yesterday at the Adidas store.
Again?
Not as bad. Not as
Oh.
bad. Yeah, so maybe it's something that I've just been eating. We had the enchiladas for a few days and all that. Maybe it was that. I don't know. But
God,
I was at the Adidas store yesterday. By the way, it looks really, really great. They expanded it. And as I'm standing there, I'm like, oh, God, I have to go. No, it was Polo. Polo, sorry, not Adidas. It was Polo. And I'm walking around, and I shouldn't give a shit. I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't give a shit about this, right?
No
but I
pun
am
intended.
considerate about others. And I see people kind of shop in my area. I'm like, damn. So I'm walking, and I finally went into this little area where no one was. And I mean, let one out, dude. And then, boom, exited that area. Then I'm looking at some shirts, and I see some guy go right into that area. Man, I'm holding up the shirt going, oh, I
should have filmed it.
This guy was literally, he was going to plug his nose and walk away, dude. But because I was a ninja, he didn't, he must have thought like somebody walked their dog in that area.
Should have filmed it.
Walk their dog.
Yeah,
Should've
but
filmed
I
it.
had to be a
His dog was
ninja
wet.
these last few days. I'm hoping it's all gone.
Well,
whatever it is that
Fart
I ate.
jitsu.
You know what the scariest
Ninja.
thing as an adult for me, and I don't know if this ever happened to you guys, but has your body ever farted without permission from you?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is scary because you don't want that to become a trend.
Yeah.
And if it can just happen whenever, I would never leave the house. There's no way. I could be talking to Natalie here at the sportsbook and all of a sudden just fart. Like, that's scary, dude.
Dude,
It's only happened to me twice.
I'll never forget. I've been with my girlfriend for about a year, and she lives with me now. And I remember one night my stomach wasn't feeling too good, so I was like, I'm gonna go lay down early. I'm just tired, not feeling so good. And so I went in the room and I just plopped down on top of the bed, didn't get in the blankets. I'm laying there, and I thought I just dozed off for like a second, and she was still out in the living room. And dude, so I like opened my eyes, and I thought I'd only been asleep, like I said, for maybe 20 minutes. Turns out I had fallen asleep for like a long time, and she was in the bed, and I opened my eyes. I was like, oh, she's still out there, and I let out the longest, loudest. I mean, it wasn't like a stinky fermented fart. It was just like combustious gas. Like I freaking the loudest, longest fart ever. And all of a sudden, I feel her move in the bed, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Because we're not like the fart in front of each other type of couple, whatever.
Right.
Take some time to get there.
She claims she didn't hear it, but like in her sleep, that fart like it had
She probably
seismic
thought it was, like,
activity
a
in my
nightmare or
bed, and it like
something.
shook her like to move. She just like, I'm like, "Did you wake up at all last night?" She's like, "No, not at all. Like nothing, nothing happened." No, I just came in the room. You were sleeping. I laid down. I was like, did I say anything? I'm
Check
like
her-
trying to probe at her. She's just like, no.
Check her phone.
What a
She probably has a
soldier.
group of friends, and they have a group text, and she probably says something like, dude,
Oh, they
this
do.
guy lit me up yesterday, man.
They do. They have a group text called the Nar. The Nar.
I can appreciate that because I guess I'll share this. Here's how I know I don't get too much sleep and stuff because at night I would just my last relationship, especially the girl be in bed. Her and the dog get my bed more than me, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be up late, kind of just typing away, doing breakdowns, whatever, this or that, kind of. And I would kind of, I got so used to her being around, and then so used to just kind of that late night grind that I must have gotten some kind of mode. Maybe I was tired, kind of like you were, where you don't realize how tired you are, and you just forget that the person's there, even when they're in the same room as you. And I just did the same thing where I was just, because when I'm Ruth, I can control it goes. That's one thing I have to worry about, thankfully. But I'm Ruth. Like my friends would just like hey, like, you have you make each other laugh as you're friends with the sound of your farts and whatever. And like I had some crazy ones. Let me just say. So when I'm alone, there's no let's just say there's no rules, and I thought I was alone. I ripped, and this was the first relationship kind of fart too.
Yeah.
So it's not just like you're getting caught. This is like the ice breaking one.
You're still
right?
on the butt sniffing stage.
Yeah, exactly. so I just go and just like very like Peter Griffin from Family Guy, and as soon as it's done, I realize I'm like I am not alone in the room, and I just slowly look to my left, and then she was reading. Her eyes are just wide open, away from her book now, looking right at me, and make eye contact. Don't say anything. Hold about a couple beats, and I just slowly look back to my computer and start working. We start laughing.
You gotta own it.
I blame the feeling on the dog, on Max. I'm like,
Yeah?
that damn Max,
I
man.
couldn't.
What'd you feed him? I actually start
Oh,
blaming
I
him. What'd
couldn't.
you feed him? You know?
Oh, I
I
couldn't,
tricked
man.
the girl into thinking it was her.
What?
Yeah, I just said that wasn't me. It must have been you. We were both asleep. How do you know it wasn't you? That works sometimes, but you gotta own it.
You
man.
should do that with
You
everything.
can't do the creepy
Somehow
little way.
use
You gotta
Houdini
own
magic
it.
to
We
turn
laughed. We
everything
laughed
on that.
afterwards.
Yeah,
I had
air guitar.
a one-on-one yoga instructor, and she did it 3 times.
What? She
And
did?
I was always scared I was going to be the one, because I knew that if I do it, I would not only clear that room, but the house, right? And we would do these poses, and I'd be like, oh, God, But I never did it. I never did.
It's always
And
bad in
she
the
actually
weight
did it,
room,
and she just
too.
went, oh, I think she said, excuse me, like that, and we'd continue through the poses.
That's it.
That's it.
Was
yeah.
she hot?
She was really pretty.
Oh, yeah, they could do that.
But like there was just no embarrassing moment. But I always kept thinking that I was gonna be the one that,
Well, do you guys ever get the ones that aren't gonna smell, but they have to come out? So you'll adjust a drawer or something. It's like, and like it is, you're not gonna do damage, but you're like, this
No,
can't
mine
stay
are
in here.
Mine are wild
damaging.
cards.
No, the other good ones are when you would.
Fighters have the
I
worst.
don't experience these anymore because now I have a girlfriend. I don't go on dates or anything. But you guys ever been at a girl's house, like a parent's house or a girl's house, or on a date, and you've had to fart, and you know it's gonna stink, and you know it's gonna be loud, but you hold it even when you're like, oh, it's visible. It's like you can feel it in your stomach. You hold the freaking thing for like 3 hours, and then when you go get in your car, the second you get in your car, you're like. I can remember specifically. I've had a couple.
But 3 hours, Michael Chiesa. I mean, you can always blame the phone and go, I got to take this.
It's one of those ones where I gotta just gut it out, dude. No pun intended. Just keeping my guts. Wait till I get in the car and just freaking bomb the joint.
Didn't they have a commercial like that? But there was a girl that did it, so it was like for those, like it was like what girls really want to do on dates or something, and it was like that scenario.
Probably.
I'm sure that's happened.
You know how
We're gonna do a podcast on flatulence.
Totally. For kids that listen to the show, a good way to get out of a book report, I remember they used to always go in alphabetical order, and I didn't have my book report done. It was a Friday. So I figured if I get in trouble, I'll get sent to the principal's office.
Yeah.
And then I won't be there to not say that I didn't do my book report.
Yeah.
So all you do is you wait till your teacher walks by, and your notebook, just push it to the ground. She'll bend over to pick it up and just go, like that. Everybody will laugh. You get sent to the office. You don't have to do your book report.
It goes like one of those.
You do it over the weekend. You come back
Life
on
hack.
Monday.
It's genius.
It goes like one of those
It's a
bums
life hack.
that
I like
guys
it.
go to jail in the wintertime just to stay warm. He commits a crime.
So let me tell you something. What got my attention
How did we
with
get
Michael Chiesa is that Dana White had done an interview where he talked about weight cutting and how he wants to change the procedure back to the old weigh-ins, which is 4 p.m. local, give or take an hour, whatever. There's a stat that our Mike Bond put out that said the new weight cutting procedures have been in effect for 2 years. So what he did was he went back 2 years prior to that announcement. And I believe it started with UFC 199, if I'm not mistaken.
That is the very first
in
event.
LA.
Yes, that was June 3rd. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So since then, there have been 63 misses. The 2 years prior to that, there had been 32 misses. So double the amount, basically. Now, all the fighters that I've ever talked to love the extra, what amounts to be 6 to 8 hours that you have of the rehydration. However, that stat is out there, and you have to pay attention to it. Why are fighters missing weight? Because of the early weigh-ins. It's still the same fighters. You're going to have fighters that are very professional and get the job done, and then you're going to have others that struggle. But there is something to be said for that. That's the outlying factor. And I just believe that when you wake up to, I don't know if your body's ready, for that. Especially if you're one of those ones that's suffering and you may not have gotten a great sleep or whatever. Who knows? Some will say there's no excuses. You just got to make weight, and that's the end of it. I don't know. Dana White says he wants to move him back, and not only that, he says he's far in the process, and, oh, man, fighters were not feeling it. And, of course, Michael Chiesa chimed in. He said you had some thoughts on this, and I thought, hey, what a great reason to bring him back.
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I hope that this falls upon ears that are listening and not deaf ones. First and foremost, there's a lot to start with here, but first I'm going to speak on my own experiences. I've been cutting weight my whole career. I'm a huge 55er. I'm a guy that struggles with my weight cut every time. Even when I'm doing it right, it's always hard. Now, there is no benefit to having a later weigh-in. Think about this. Even for the guys that have missed weight, and then they use the excuse that, this screws me up because of, I'm used to sleeping in and I didn't get a good night's rest, blah, blah, blah. Nobody gets a good night's rest the day before weigh-ins. I've never met a fighter that is cutting weight, because most guys I talk to are smart and start their weight cut the day before weigh-ins, whether it's in the evening or in the morning. They start their weight cut the night before, get crummy sleep, and then you move on, you finish your cut. When we had afternoon weigh-ins, we only that's 2 extra hours, because we have to leave by 1 o'clock so we can be at the arena for 3 hours on weight before we have a ceremonial weigh-in.
That's a good point.
That makes no sense. So basically, you want to shift and change everything for a couple hours? Do you think that would have helped Mackenzie Dern? Do you think that would have helped Darren Till? Absolutely not. If you want to fix the freaking problem, pardon my language, you have to get rid of weight cutting. Period. Bar none. It doesn't matter what time you start it, what time you end it. It doesn't matter. I want 165 just as bad as the next guy. I want it just as bad as Kevin Lee.
Weight cutting, though.
That's exactly my point. No, aside from ONE FC, nobody's really made that motion to get rid of weight cutting. We could add weight classes. We could change the time of weigh-ins. That's not going to curb the problem. The problem is weight cutting.
So what do you walk around at?
Big. I would be a 170-pounder. If we had to do hydration testing and do things along the guidelines of ONE FC, I would not be competing at 155 pounds. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? But I look at the big picture. I look at myself, technique-wise, I'm confident. From a technique standpoint, I can beat anybody in the UFC in any weight class. But it gets to a point where size does make a difference. Stipe Miocic is really big, really skilled, with a lot of size and mass. Odds aren't my favor.
But right now you're under 185?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I woke up this morning. I was right at 185 this morning. But look at a guy like Darren Till. I'm not going up to 170 to fight a guy that cuts from 230. He was 98 kilograms the day before weigh-ins. That's on his Instagram. I could pull that up. That's a fact. He told a fan.
What is 98 kilograms?
That's 216 pounds.
Okay.
Okay. That's a problem. Do you think a couple hours would have made a difference?
No.
Let's also take into consideration, let's talk about the doubled number. When did USADA come into play? July of 2015.
Right.
So that gets rid of diuretics. Maybe that has a reason that there's an influx in guys missing weight in the 2-year window. The stat that Mike Bond put out is from June 6th, 2014 to May 30th, 2016. That was before the
early
morning weigh-ins. June 30, they double the numbers, but USADA started testing July 1st, 2015, so now we get rid of IVs, we're getting rid of diuretics, we're cleaning things out. Now guys are starting to double in numbers. I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And the money that they lose, you lose money if a guy misses weight. You done a bunch of promotional things, guy misses weight, gets pulled from a fight, you lose money.
So what is no weigh-ins? Did you say no weight cutting at all, right?
I think that there's a way to just curb weight cutting in general.
How do you do that? I mean,
ONE FC seems to have their own system that involves a lot of hydration testing, periodic weight checks. a lot of things that don't seem unreasonable. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable. Like, how does California State Athletic Commission check fighters? I know that
I know Skype in video to see where they're at.
Okay, so we already have
stages.
We already have to do USADA whereabouts. What's the difference in having to do? You're in camp. We need a weight check, every week. Plus, you got to take a hydration test. Let's say it's not USADA's job to see if we can make weight or not, but they're already coming to our door collecting our piss. You might as well just test it and see if we're hydrated to go with the number that we're sending you. What's it going to take? Do we have to wait for somebody to really croak? I'm not sitting here saying we need to add weight classes. That doesn't, as much as I like the idea of 165, that just doesn't fix the problem. And I want the problem fixed. I don't want to add more.
I think it helps fix the problem.
It helps fix the problem.
It doesn't fix it, but at least it's a step in that direction.
But I can see a lot of, I'm not going to name names. I know a lot of higher ups want the added weight classes. But there's certain people that don't, and I can understand why, and it's the legacy of the 170-pound division. That's one of the most, next to heavyweight, that's the most prestigious weight class in the UFC. George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, a lot of some of the best champions we've ever had came from 170. So adding 2 weight classes, that means you're just putting a stop to, it's kind of like a legacy thing. I can respect that. So,
yeah.
So
they had 200 over and under.
Yeah.
They added 170 at one point, but
Yeah.
they basically did 205 for Tito Ortiz. So they got past it being 200 and made it 205, and they started a new era. Let's not forget, this sport's going to live for another 75 years, and at some point in 2093, someone's going to go, we've reached 100 years, and they're going to laugh at what we call right now the leather helmet area, and they're going to see a few things that we did, but for the benefit of going forward, I get that. I still believe 10 pounds, doing away with 70, creating 65 and 75. At the moment, we can say, hey, George was the greatest. Tyron would make his choice of whether he goes to 75 or 65, and we all just kind of move on. But I know we've done it in the past. I think we could all do it again.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I like the idea of the weight class, but I'm not here to sit and advocate for why we should add weight class. I'm here to advocate we should not change what's already in place. We need to not change the
I'll tell you what.
We can't. This sport has a tendency to take away from the people that do it right.
Yes.
You find guys cutting corners, getting away with doing PEDs, getting a slap on the wrist, getting to go back, but that takes away from the guys that don't. The guys that, are going about this the right way. Same with the weight cutting thing. Okay, so let's just change the rule and totally, essentially screw over the people that when they sign on the dotted line, they go through the camp, they do the right thing. You make weight, you do it right. We shouldn't have the rug ripped out from under us.
We got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We're going to keep talking about weight cutting, and we have Michael Chiesa in the house. He's a UFC lightweight.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice, and they get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Justify attempts to become the second undefeated horse to win the Triple Crown winner at the Belmont Stakes on Saturday, and SiriusXM Rush 93 is where you need to hear it. Coverage begins Saturday morning at 10 Eastern with Dave Johnson, and down the stretch where he'll welcome Justified trainer Bob Baffert. Then stay tuned for HRRN's Call of the Undercard races starting at 2 Eastern, leading to the live call of the Belmont Stakes. The chase for the Triple Crown is on SiriusXM Rush, Channel 93, and streaming on your phone or home on the SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. Michael Chiesa is our guest here in studio, and we would welcome your thoughts too if you want to call in and have ideas towards weight cutting. I definitely have mine. I think you guys are really, really going to like it, and I think it's a little bit of what one championship does, a little bit of my personal spin to it, and it's realistic. So
you want to eat that meatball you had?
Huh? Yeah, that one will do it.
That'll help you make weight.
Don Chow from Rancho Santa Margarita. What's up, man?
Morning, guys. How you doing this morning?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you. Hey, Michael, welcome to the studio.
Hey, it's good to be here.
I'm a big fan of you, and I want to congratulate you on the Fox Sports gig. I look forward to watching that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, here's the thing, Michael. I'm also a fan of Kevin Lee.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, since you're spending more time in Vegas and even training at Syndicate, have you guys squashed any beef that may have been left over? And do you even possibly train with Kevin or see him that often? And that's all I got, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen Kevin in passing. Obviously we're at different MMA gyms, but we're at the PI together, and there's been a few hand gestures thrown back and forth, but we've spoke to each other cordially. I wished him good luck on the Edson Barboza fight.
Like middle fingers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but it's not like we were like, F you, in each other's face. He was on a treadmill doing his VO2 in the room, and I was like, hey, flipped him the bird, and I saw him laugh, and yeah. we talked in the locker room one time, I was like, asked him about his camp, this and that, and, and definitely was like, hey, win, I'll win, and we'll fight, you know what I mean? And we kind of talked on that note a little bit, but, hey, you know what? I don't got to like the guy at all, which I don't, but I respect him as a competitor. Dude's a hell of a fighter, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Okay. All right, Ben from New York, I think you can call back if you're listening, Ben. Here's my idea, guys. Tell me what you think of this. So you do check in with one championship with their hydration test. They want to know where you're at because they don't want to have excessive weight cutting, right?
Is this with boxing, you said?
One championship.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
one championship.
One
okay.
championship,
okay.
yeah. But different to what they do is one number that I've heard when I talk to a lot of the performance coaches or strength and conditioning coaches, or even some of the people that know the PED world and are familiar with that, 10% seems to be a number people are comfortable with as far as how much a fighter should lose. All right? So I'm going to use Michael Chiesa as our example. 156 is the acceptable number for a non-title fight. Most fights are non-title fights at 150 pounds. So to use this, for a championship fight, all we have to do is reduce everything by 1 pound. But I'm going to use 156 because it's the most common. You guys, on average, guys and gals, get tested 7 times. All right? The breakdown of what USADA is supposed to test is something like 3,800, and there's anywhere between 500 and 600 fighters on the roster. Some have been tested 12 times in 1 year. Some have been tested 3 times. It's random. You don't know when to expect it. You could get a knock at the door and feel like, well, I won't be seeing them for another month. And guess what? In a week, they try and get you again. That's the randomness. But the important thing to note here is 6 to 7 times is the average for the whole roster.
It's about once every 2 months, let's just say.
Yeah. And so my opinion is this USADA guy, I've seen him. I've seen one of them. You all know I do my physical therapy at Extreme Couture, and I saw someone with USADA walking in, and it looked like they had the equipment to maybe, do whatever they needed to do, right? Or maybe they're going to there to talk. I don't know. All I know is they can walk in with a scale, an approved scale, and draw blood or make you piss or do whatever it is they need to do and have you step on the scale. And when they do, they're going to take down your number. If in fact they got someone at Extreme Couture, they're probably going to get them after they just shedded 5 pounds. But there's also going to be a day when they run into you after you partied all weekend and you're 5 pounds heavier than you normally are. But they're going to take down these weights And I would say a fair number would be after about 3 to 5. So this would take about 6 to 9 months to enact. After about 5, let's say, they're going to create your average and say, listen, Chiesa's average is about 174. We got a 180, we got a 173, we got a 172, we got a 176. His average walk-around weight is 174. And because he doesn't know it's coming, because remember, this is random, they're going to catch you at different times, right? If you take 10% off 174, you get 156. If his average is 175 or higher, he's now a welterweight.
Which I would be a welterweight. There's no, I don't walk at 74.
Right.
That's like a couple weeks out.
Right.
From a fight.
So if you walk around at 190, if that's your average, you can lose those 19 pounds of 10% throughout a camp and during the week. You could weigh in at 171. If you're over 190, you are now a middleweight. You don't walk around more than 190, right?
Oh, trust me, I can.
You can,
but
right. But your average wouldn't be more than 190.
No.
But
about
174
about 190
would be very
average.
tough, right?
It's not that 174 is tough. It's just that's camp weight. Mm-hmm. I'm 6'1", and I tell people all the time I'm not a guy that weight cutting sucks, but I am smart about it. I don't show up for fight week and have this drastic cut. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Before the shitty circumstances in Brooklyn, that was the day before weigh-ins, and after my run that morning, I was 163 pounds. You know what I mean?
Something happened in Brooklyn?
Yeah, something I can't really talk about. Okay. But, so it's like that's camp weight. That's not that it's it's not unfeasible. It's just like, okay, that means that I'm like on a very strict diet. I'm working out 3 times a day. Now 190, that's more feasible. If I eat good, I don't really even have to work that hard to stay at 190 because my body can get big. I've been as big as 217 before. Mm-hmm. I'm a big guy. Mm-hmm. But
well, under this system, if you average more than 190, you're now a middleweight. If you average more than 174, you're now a welterweight. If you average walking around at more than 206, you're now a light heavyweight because a 206er. If he's walking around at 206, then he should be fighting at he has to be less than 206 if you want to fight at 185.
I think that what they could do with that system is have a fighter should always have a somewhat of a set time when they're going to get booked. Usually it's 8 weeks. Most of the time it's 6 weeks. I think that the second that you get a contract sent to you or something, there's got to be a weight check. Like, okay, 6 weeks out from the fight, what are you at?
Who weight checks you though?
Well, it would have to be USADA or California State Athletic Commission.
So then you also know when you get booked, you also say, well, let's hold off on that contract. Again, I'm thinking as a naysayer.
Yo, yeah,
hey, you know what? Let's sign that contract because I've been doing some stuff. I've been doing some sauce here for a few days. Let's hold off on signing that contract. I'm gonna go kayaking for a weekend or whatever, and I don't like the idea of them knowing when USADA's coming because that.
Well, they could. Well, no. What I meant was they could continue their random testing and always weight check you.
Yeah.
When you're getting your random test, but once you get a contract signed, that's when there's got to be you have to send in a check-in for your weight. So it's like if you're getting randomly tested and you don't have a fight coming up, hey, they weight checked you, your weight's not looking good, you know what I mean? Try to, get things in check.
Well, what I feel is that fighters, if you know you're signing a contract and your weight checks in the next 24 hours, right now, in 24 hours, you could lose how many pounds? 10, 12?
Right now?
In a sauna?
Oh, yeah.
So you could throw off the system.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? What I like about the randomness about USADA is they're there. The only thing, and they're with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I just meant in a sense they keep everything random, but just know when you sign a contract that there's going to be a weight check to see if you're within your weight class. Like, hey, Mike, we want you to fight so-and-so. Here's your contract, send in your weight. And then if I'm over a certain weight, then there can be reprimandments or whatever. But I do everything's got to be random when it comes to USADA. I agree with you.
What do you think of the people that say day of fighting weigh-ins?
People will still cut weight.
I don't like it, man.
And it's scary.
You're not giving yourself time to rehydrate your brain, man.
Well, that's the thing is that if you did some type of same-day weigh-in, there would have to be hydration tests, like specific gravity hydration tests, every day of fight week or something to ensure that guys aren't going to cut weight.
Everyone feels like the wrestlers aren't cutting, but they're still cutting to get to
that.
Well,
here's the thing.
And they're not getting hit in the head, though.
But if they use that argument that, we can't do same-day hydration or same-day weigh-ins because guys are still going to cut weight, well, nobody's fully rehydrated when you have an evening weigh-in the day before. having an early weigh-in gives you 8 to 10 hours to prevent your brain from being dehydrated. If that's the big concern,
it should be.
If that's why we can't have same-day weigh-ins, then you have to keep morning weigh-ins.
I think weight cutting is 2 things. 1, you guys are damaging your organs every time you put your body through that.
Yep.
And 2, we want you as fully hydrated as possible, because we all know you're not just hydrating your body, you're hydrating your brain.
Yeah.
If someone earned the knockout, they earned the knockout, but they shouldn't get you because you weren't fully rehydrated.
Yeah, and I think that with the evening weigh-ins, maybe if, like I said, I'm not here to advocate for added weight classes. They would be good, but it's like, okay, if you're going to keep the evening weigh-ins, then you got to add weight classes. Then you got to throw a bone to the guys that are in between. There's guys like, look at Ross Pearson. He's right in between 55 and 45. You know what I mean? Bad example, actually, because he's those 2 weight classes are a good set number. But, I mean, for guys like me, Kevin Lee, we're in between. These late weigh-ins kind of fuck us because we...
Habib, for all due respect, he should be a 65er.
Yeah, he should be a 65er. You know what I mean? I think that if you keep the late weigh-ins, then you got to do something else.
All right, I'll tell you my part 2 to what I think can fix this. We got to take this break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close, and I'll tell you about my option for some fighters that prefer the later weigh-in.
Do what they say, and your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
If you play fantasy sports, Sirius XM has a channel just for you. Listen to Fantasy Sports Radio to hear expert advice from the top fantasy baseball and football analysts. Whether you need help setting your fantasy baseball lineup or you need to know who the breakout players in fantasy football will be this season, the place to be is Sirius 210 XM87, or listen on your Sirius XM app by searching Fantasy Sports. So Mike Bond was saying that in the last 2 years, since they enacted the new weigh-in system on June 3rd, 2016, 62 fighters have missed weight. There have been 82 events, and there have been 962 fights. It takes 2 to tango. 962 times 2 is 1,924. 10% of that would be 192. So basically, this is about 3% of the fighters, of the 1,924 fighters that have fought in the last 2 years, 3% is fucking it up for 97% that are going in there and doing their job.
Yeah.
That is the problem that a lot of fighters are having. So even though we are having our struggles, 97% of them are making their weight. And some of them actually are repeat offenders, by the way. So,
yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say was, and tell me what you think, Michael Chiesa.
Yep.
For the most part, you guys land on Tuesday. That's travel day.
Yes, sir.
You show up, you sign posters, you get your per diems, you get the key to your room, you start to find out where the sauna is, the treadmills, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You get a media schedule. Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday can either be those fighter scrums, the media days, or what they used to do, sometimes the press conference days, open workouts, depending on where you are, right? But basically, they try and leave them alone as of about Thursday noon to afternoon so that they can all do what they need to do. If you're one of those that prefers to cut weight later on in the day, have the option for Thursday night, 8 to 10 p.m. weigh-in, early weigh-in.
Yeah.
All right? That way you get it done and you wake up and you're good on Friday. And the rest of you can weigh in Friday morning if you need that time.
Yeah.
All it would cost is a commission official to be there at the hotel and say, all right, the early morning weigh or the weigh-in is available on Thursday night from 8 to 10. You show up. And guess what? If you make weight, you have almost 48 hours to rehydrate.
I think that it would have to similar to what you're saying, but you couldn't give somebody, if we're giving somebody 48 hours to rehydrate, and a guy decides to weigh in the morning, then you're creating a bigger deficit. And
that's his bad.
Where their argument will come into play is, but then it works for us morning guys because we could say, hey, well, it's your bad if you need the late afternoon weigh-ins because we're making weight in the morning. It's a double-edged sword. It kind of goes both ways.
Say it again.
I think that it's like if you were to say, the guys that make weight and get the 48-hour window before, and if the guys opt to do the morning weigh-ins, well, that's your fault. It's like, well, us morning guys could say that. Well, hey, it's not our fault that you need a late weigh-in. You know what I mean? I think one thing you could do that I've heard in discussion that they do in that promotion in Australia is take a point. You miss weight or jungle fights in Brazil. It's jungle fights, not Australia. It's jungle fights in Brazil. You miss weight by a kilo. That's a point.
So the first round, you're already at 9?
You get to a certain, like if you miss by 1 or 2, it's a point. You miss by 3 or 4, it's another point.
What if you already got your bet in?
They can take away up to 3 points in jungle fight. Look it up. They take away points.
That would suck.
If you already got your bet in and that shit happens, you're like, oh.
So think about this in the case of Darren Till Wonderboy. All right, Wonderboy, he missed by 3.5. You get to start with 2 points off Darren Till. Guess what? Wonderboy wins.
Yeah, I never heard that one.
Yeah, if they don't want to change anything at all, if you don't want to add weight classes, if you don't want to, whatever the times may be, okay, then you got to make the penalty heavy. Guess what?
50%.
You're losing your show pay.
Ooh. You're ruthless over here.
No,
hey man, but
you gotta stop,
right.
guys.
I'm not saying I'm not feeling it, but I thought he'd say 50%.
Do you think that?
Whole way.
Think about.
I gotta jump in. It's the end of the hour. We'll be right back. We'll keep discussing this. We got plenty of time to really, really dive into this. Michael Chiesa wants to take it all. I was like 50%. I don't know. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
Yeah. That's why we're playing it.
What's
today?
today?
I think.
Prince would have turned 60 today.
Oh, damn.
You want me to close the door?
Oh, sure.
Hey, all 5 of us, are we going to sing along right here? Yes or no?
No.
You guys left me hanging.
I'm trying to think. I
don't even know the words.
She wore a raspberry beret?
Kind of.
Oh, man, Junkie Nation, I was trying to, have a little fun here.
I thought it was Bad Mama Jamma Buffet.
I probably wouldn't have done it either because I would have thought it was a setup where you didn't say anything and then I was the one that said it.
I was all in. All right.
You're too devious.
It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Michael Chiesa here in studio with us, talking weight cutting and all the perils that come with it. A lot of fighters have been making some strong statements, and it would really be sad if something tragic happened and then we reacted. We've gotten plenty of warnings. There's been a lot of warning signs, red flags. Again, it's pretty out in the open. But when Khabib missed weight against Tony Ferguson here in Las Vegas, they transported him to the hospital. This is all public stuff. His body shut down, man. Ask Ali. Ali's been very open about it. He could have died that night. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's just one example of many people that, Uriah Hall, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was scary.
This
the kid
guy,
on Tough, when they finally talked a little bit about what happened, his muscles were so overworked that what happened? It went into his bloodstream or something like that?
Yeah.
There's some really serious things that need to get addressed.
And those are some of the stories we've never heard of. We've heard. Remember in L.A., I think it wasn't when Ronda fought. Anyway, it was like 2009. Goes and I saw Anthony Johnson. Mm-hmm. They were carrying him, all right, and his feet were like dangling. It wasn't one of those like, "Hey, help me," and you can on your own accord. You also have the movements, the mechanics of your feet, and where to step.
I think that was
they
Anaheim.
were carrying. No, it was in L.A.
Wasn't it at the Clementi when Clementi had to take that?
No, that one he missed weight by like 6 pounds, and he just kind of went, "What do you want from me?" But Dana White said, "Don't worry about it," because he stepped in late notice. And Rich Clementi actually wound up beating him.
Yeah.
But in this one, it was in L.A., and it wasn't the last Ronda
It might have been Yoshiyuki Yoshida or whatever his name was.
Something like that. And I remember we saw it, I was like, whoa, that was brutal, right. You see that? I don't want that. It's bad enough that I see these guys going out there and basically, it doesn't look like it, but to me, sometimes I interpret it as they're fighting to the death. They're trying to hurt each other really bad because they don't want to be the one that loses that fight. That's enough entertainment for me, man. I don't need people to die. I don't need people to suffer like that. You know what I mean? That's why I think additional weight classes would help. I also believe that from the UFC side, why do you think we have a lot of interim belts out there? Because they love promoting title fights.
Yeah, they need
more champions. So guess what? If you lose 70, you just gained 65 and 75. You just gained one extra title. You pulled one and you added two, right? And if you add 95, it will come in handy at one point. At one point, we needed 95. Right now, not so much because 205 isn't as deep as it used to be. No. But at one point in time, Dan Henderson would have loved to have 95. Shogun Rua, he doesn't want to go to 85, but he would have loved to go to 95.
Rashad Evans
is another guy. It took forever to get there. Lyoto made it, but I bet you if you gave him 95, he'd be fighting at 95. There's a lot of those guys that were tweeners in between 205 and 85. As far as chopping the heavyweights in half, I'm not so sure about that one.
No, we don't have the talent yet.
Right, yeah. No. I'm not so sure about that one, but guess what? Go back in the history of the game. Guys that weigh about 235, 240 have been running it. All right? They don't need to weigh 265. That was back in the Carwin, Brock Lesnar days. The Kane has been a 235, 240 guy. Fabrice has been about a 235, 240, sometimes 245 guy. All those guys, they don't need to get all the way to 265.
No.
Anyway, between that, knowing where these guys walk around at, I think we can do it.
I think weight classes would definitely help. Like I said, I think that the first thing is to address the weight cutting, but it's like if we're not going to address that, then you got to add the weight classes. Most of the weight, and Mike Bond's very thorough report he did. Kudos to him. Most misses were at lightweight.
But I thought he gave the best answer. and it's the one that I think a lot of people would least imagine coming from a fighter.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about it. What would do? Well, if you just find the shit out of them, it probably would never happen. But we never think it would come to that.
Yeah.
I've never actually heard a fighter say that, and so it's refreshing to hear that. But I when he says it, I see him say it because he knows, I know I can make weight. I think it's the fighters that kind of go, I like to play that game, and so that's why they have.
Well, those fighters that say they like to play that game are the same guys that will give in. There's always a time in a weight cut where I'm like, God, it's only 10%. Screw it. I could be done right now. Whatever. How many of those guys are like, screw it, I'll just take the penalty. I'm done. I'm still going to move on towards a title shot. You know what I mean?
People are going to forget.
You got to make way more.
Do it again next
you got to make way more of a penalty. You think Michael Prazeres would miss weight 5 times if he knew he was going to? It was either win or you're in debt. Not only did you not get paid, but you don't have money to cover your taxes. You know what I mean? You got to make it heavy on these guys. If you don't want to add weight classes, if you want to change the late weigh-ins, then you got to make something that benefits us guys still. That the majority. I haven't seen too many guys advocate for the late weigh-ins. Most guys are like, keep the early weigh-in. Well, then you got to throw something our way. You can't just reward the people that have been causing the fouls. That's essentially what you're doing. Let's change the weigh-in times because some of our superstars are missing weight and that's what they want. Screw the guys that are making weight. You know what I mean? Like it's not fair to us. So throw us a bone. Okay, we get late weigh-ins, but guess what? Here's the penalty. Here's the other thing too. What if? And then I'll shut up and let you guys digest this one. What if when you show up for fight week, that when you are signing all your HIPAA forms and all that BS, you have to sign and decide if you're going to weigh in the morning or at night on the same day. You have to choose. Can't be on weigh-in day. It's like, okay, hey, are you going to weigh in the morning weigh-in or are you going to do the ceremonial? You get a choice. But you have to sign for it days in advance, and so you're not doing it last minute. That's another thing you could do.
What if you took the Reebok money, okay, and if you miss weight, now your tier, you drop a tier. Would you take that?
It's only 5,000, 2,500.
Yeah, but if you're a 2,500 guy, or I mean, if you get up pretty high there, if you've had 20 fights or whatever, that's a good chunk of money that you're gonna lose out on.
I think you give guys the option.
I like bonuses. I like when guys
attack their show money.
I like the bonuses that you can't get a bonus, but I would also like to say like maybe you just can't get a bonus for a while.
Well, some of them are being penalized for 3 shows, depending on what they do. So,
or lifetime ban, like Ali Quinta.
He can't get a bonus ever?
Well, that's just always. That's why he didn't get bonuses for a long time. And he was pissed. He got screwed out of. Think about it. He had some phenomenal performances against Joe Lozon, Ross Pearson, and there was someone else, and he totally got ripped of a bonus.
Yeah, I think it was 3. They penalized him for 3.
Yeah, that's 3.
The hotel room, right? I think contributed to that.
I think that's another story in itself. Yeah. He's raging Ali Quinta.
Is that fight set, by the way? He tweeted fake news, but that could be a joke. And we saw what happened when Yair Rodriguez tweeted fake news. But, I mean, we've already had an announcement on it. He will be headlining versus Justin Gaethje in Lincoln, Nebraska.
I saw him. Looking forward to it. I'm all about.
Who do you like in that fight early on?
Quinta Nation.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. Yeah, Al's my man. You know what I mean? We may have competed against each other, but that's small part of the picture. We were teammates for 3 months. Respect the hell out of that guy. Yeah, I'm all Quinta Nation.
All right. So this weekend, who do you like between Covington and RDA?
Ooh, here we go. Diving into the good stuff. UFC 225. Rafael Dos Anjos, Colby Covington. First and foremost, I hate some of the stuff he says, but I respect the hell out of him. He's a former Oregon State wrestler. He's trained under Kevin Roberts while he was there, who I have a good relationship with. Boy, it's a tough fight to call. RDA's looking good up at 170. He's ripping guys. Colby's been on a roll, aside from the one hiccup to Warley Alvarez at UFC 194. Yep. It really just depends. Rafael's shown that he can be taken down and grounded by Khabib. Colby could go that route. I don't think Rafa's got the best game off his back. I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah,
I think that can happen. So I like Colby. I think you said you like him in a decision, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And I like him to actually maybe finish him. And what I pointed to was when Hoffa gets out of the gate, front runner fucking can sound kind of cruel at times, but there are a lot of fighters when they're front runners, they're beasts. But if you check them early, they can
they deflate.
Yes, perfect word. I was gonna say wither, but yeah, you got to do that to Rafael dos Anjos, because if he gets going, he will win that fight, and he'll get the best out of you. But I think Colby got a lot of confidence once he was able to tangle with Maia on the ground, and I think some of that's going to carry over, and I think that's how he gets the job done, via ground and pound stoppage.
Could be. I think a lot of people, when they're going back and watching his performance against Maia, and it's just so hard to judge him off of that because he fought so differently because it was Maia. A lot of people were saying his striking was off. But he was doing that because he didn't want to get taken down. So, I mean, it's hard to judge him on that performance, but I think he's gotten a lot better. I think it's going to be a really good fight. And if you look on this show, at least, it's been getting talked about way more than the main event has.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because even though we're all pretty much speaking that Colby's going to go out there and ground him and beat him, but on the other side of things, he did get caught in an arm and guillotine. And that seems to be something that Rafael dos Anjos does go to a lot.
Magny got caught, right?
Magny got caught in an arm triangle. But Colby Covington got caught. When he got caught by Warley Alves, it was an arm and guillotine.
Okay.
And that's something that Rafa did pull for against Khabib. Do I see that happening? No, but, I'm just throwing it out there. That could be there. That could be part of the game plan, but I'm going to have to go with Colby.
Dan, you released your article, right? What did you finally decide?
Covington. I did say decision. I mean, with the possibility of a late stoppage. I just think the wrestling gears, you showed he can hit 10 to 12, shoot 12 to 13, or 12 to 15 takedowns in a 3-round fight without getting tired against much bigger guys. It's one of those things where RDA is the more experienced guy in 5 rounds, but I don't know if it's a done deal if they get into those championship rounds. It's what happens. I think one of you guys said maybe even in the first round, but it's what happens in those early rounds. It's going to kind of tell the story of the fight.
What do you like between Romero and Whitaker?
Ooh,
part 2.
I love you, boy. Everybody. Man, that's a really tough one to call. I mean, Robert Whitaker, that guy's shown resiliency outside of the octagon. What this guy's been through. I mean, having the bad staph infection in his organs or whatever the illness he had, he overcame a lot of things. He had his knees pretty much smoked when he fought Romero the first time. Guy's about as resilient as it gets, and he's young. He's 28 years old. I'm still gonna have to go with youth on this one. I think Romero definitely he's a powerful guy. He's explosive. We saw in the Luke Rockhold fight. There's still a lot of fight left in this guy. But Robert Whitaker is just more durable. You know what I mean? I think that he could go out there and he sticks to his game plan. He beat Yoel with one leg essentially. What's he gonna do with 2 good legs? That's what I'm curious to see. So I'm gonna have to go with youth on this one. But I love Romero. Romero's the man. I see him in passing. I'm a huge fan of the guy. Awesome wrestler. But Whitaker's he's a man on a mission.
All right, we'll get a few more predictions from you in just a bit. And remember, all of our staff picks go live on the site probably by tomorrow, so you'll have them there along with Dan's analysis for all of you that want to get some action down on a parlay. Yoel Romero,
Dan's in first place,
Colby Covington, Alistair Overeem. There's some names there where you're like, what? I've never seen them as underdogs, or you rarely see them as underdogs, but that's how deep this card. Ricardo Lamas, come on, man. You just don't see it, but there's some great matchups. Anyway, right now what we got to do is get the daily debate out of the way. We enjoy doing it, but we got some guests coming up here soon. We don't want to trip over ourselves. So here we go. Here's the question for today. Brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. We'll have Michael Chiesa chime in as well. If victorious at UFC 225, do you think Phil CM Punk Brooks will have a 3rd UFC fight? It's simple. I just want a yes or a no, and if you want to add to it, great. But let me hear the yes or no out of you guys.
No.
Nope.
All right.
Well,
Dan?
You said that's all you wanted.
Well, yeah, but if you have something to add to it.
Yeah, well, I think he's in it to just prove that he can do it.
So if he wins,
he's got a lot of money.
You don't think he'll get another fight?
I think they'll offer it to him, but
right.
I don't think he'll want to do it. That life of a fighter, what you have to do to be prepared, and granted, the UFC is not a place to learn, and he's still learning. So I don't see why he would put himself through a 3rd fight.
No, as well.
Get your win, get out, go out on top. You know what I mean? Not to mention you have to match him. You have to give him special treatment almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't. Okay, you beat another guy that's 0-1. What's the next best offer? A guy that's got like 16 fights in the UFC? Take your win.
Dan?
Yeah, I'll say no. Kind of same for the same reasons as Goes. Even if he does win, and I could see the UFC offering maybe him something, but I think he's done. You look at the age, kind of just reading from what I'm reading in the interviews, and not hating, just saying. I think he just wants to prove it to himself, and this is the all or nothing last go.
I admire the guy.
He got mauled in the first fight, right? Like one of them salmons that gets mauled by a Kodiak. I'm sure you've seen that in the Northwest.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he was still willing to come back. Something tells me that if he were to win, like the question is phrased, that he would want to have a third fight. I know the UFC would want to because he's teaching, he's good business. It's just, can they find the right guy for him? So I'm going to go on the side of yes. And surprisingly, most of Junkie Nation agrees with me. 70% said yes, 30% said no. What you guys said, I'm not calling you crazy, but something about the fact that he was still willing to come back after that atrocious performance in the first fight. And he didn't know it was going to be Mike Jackson. That was 2 years ago. He just said, I want to do it again. He knew they would find him someone, and I think they can find him someone again if he were to be victorious. And I think the UFC would do it. But
Mickey Gall's a tough out.
I have been wrong before, for sure.
Mickey Gall's a tough kid.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, dudes?
What's up?
So, me, I don't know. I don't want to see CM Punk fight again, not on the UFC. If he wants to go to a regular circuit and doing the right way, maybe yes. But isn't Colby Covington like the people main event? For everybody that was hating on this guy at the beginning with the gimmick, it freaking worked, man. The gimmick freaking worked. He's more talked about than the freaking main event. He's the most talked about fighter on this whole card, man. Go Colby Covington, man. I like it. That's what I have to say today. Peace out.
All right, see you, Marco.
Later, Marco.
Well, is he right?
I mean, he is right. There is a lot of talk. That's a lot of pressure, man, to put on yourself, though, because if you don't perform, you're going to look pretty foolish.
And now he's saying he wants to take the belt to Donald J. Trump in the White House because he's on the other side, you know, whether you believe that he took the invitation away or uninvited, the Eagles and I think the Warriors last year, or you believe the side where they just didn't want to go. We have not had that ceremony that used to happen for many years, you know, prior to this administration, where the winner of a Super Bowl, World Series, Stanley Cup, whatever, would go to the White House, and that just hasn't been happening. And so Colby Covington feels like there's a void to be filled there.
Well, who's to say the players would have showed up anyways? That's
10 were scheduled to be there.
Yeah,
and that included like trainers or whatever. So yeah, the Eagles were not.
One of them was the mascot, I think.
The Eagles were not bringing a big contingent, so that's why I think Trump saw that and said, "Oh man." Yeah. We have our guest coming up here, but I will say this in closing. He picked the wrong team to make that statement on because not one Eagle kneeled all in 2017. So, yeah, that you know, whatever case he had there went out the window. All right, let's talk to Tyler Diamond, who got a win on last night's episode of The Ultimate Fighter, Season 27, undefeated. That's right, they're all undefeated. And now we've sorted out that first round of fights. We have two divisions, featherweights and lightweights. 4 from each division are now advancing to the semifinals, and that all culminates with the Tough Fighter finale that'll take place on July 6th here in Las Vegas during International Fight Week, one day before Miocic and Cormier, who coincidentally are the coaches. All right, Chiesa's on that card. Chiesa's been on Tough, so maybe he can chime in. But right now, let's focus on Tyler Diamond. What's up, Tyler? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good, man. Welcome to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George, Goes, and Dan. We have Michael Chiesa, UFC lightweight, here in studio with us as well. Congrats on the win last night. Everything looked great to me, man.
Heck yeah, thank you. I just had to get in there and get injury-free after what's been happening so far.
It seemed to me like at no point did this become personal. You took everything in stride. You know, Dulani's kind of has an act, I guess. And he went out there and did his thing, but you didn't really get caught up in it.
Yeah, no, not really, you know. I mean, I was just there for one thing and one thing only, you know, like why. And I just know that any competition you get in is going to get caught on camera, and they can edit however they want to, you know. And so I was very selective with what I said and what I did. And I didn't mind or pay any attention to Dulani's antics.
Mm-hmm. I think you handled it well. One thing I got to ask as a former competitor on Tough myself is, what did you do to avoid the injury bug? Did you just kind of disregard it and just keep going, you know, pedal to the metal, or is there things precautions you took in training with everything that was going on?
Yeah, I think I listened to my body. If I trained hard and I did everything DC asked of me, but if I was really, really starting to feel it, I said, hey, can I tone it back just a little bit today? And he was super accommodating and more than willing. I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like I have a good grasp on when I need to put my foot on the pedal and when I need to put the foot on the brakes a little bit. And then as far as the fight, the whole strategy was just to get the fight to the ground as soon as possible and take no damage to move on to the next and more important fight.
Tell me about Team Cormier, because just to go a little further on Michael's question, Cormier is proud to be an AKA member, and one thing they always boast over there is how hard they train, and even though they've had their fair share of injuries, they can always boast that they've had 4 major world champions there with Kane and Habib and Luke and himself. You said DC was very accommodating, but were there ever times that he was pushing you guys hard and giving you a little bit of that AKA feel?
Maybe at times, but man, I'm not going to explain it all. I thought the training was great. It was hard. I feel like it was a lot harder than what Stipe's guys were doing, because we lived in the same house and we talked to those guys, and it just kind of seemed like they were having a little bit more fun compared to us. But I wasn't there to have fun. I was there to work hard, and I feel like DC did a great job of assessing how the group felt and planning the workouts from there. But yeah, as far as you said about AKA working hard and their 4 world champs, you definitely can't take that away from them. They're obviously doing something right. I'm from Team Alpha now in Sacramento, where we're quite established, and I feel like we're one of the harder training gyms in the world, and so it was nothing new to me working hard, or nothing that caught me by surprise. It was just kind of an everyday thing for me, so I just took it in stride and did my thing.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it there. Like I was just going to say, you're a staple at Team Alpha Male, and, I got exposed to that Team Alpha Male grind for 3 months, so I know that you're well prepared for hard training. Probably nothing that's really far astray from whatever AKA does. You're pretty used to that hard grind, especially given, a lot of you guys do. It's a lot of wrestling, and that's usually the hardest. The hardest workouts are usually the wrestling workouts, and you're pretty well established there.
Absolutely. There's a few guys from smaller gyms. Everyone worked extremely hard. Everyone had a good work ethic, but I think it may have caught a couple people by surprise how hard we were working, considering how close to the fights we were. But I felt like we were working hard, but we were training smart. DC wasn't necessarily doing a lot of things where we could get hurt. It was just, they were tough workouts. So as long as the risk of injury is low, I didn't mind whatsoever. So like I said, I think it may have caught a couple of people by surprise, but for me, I just tried being kind of a silent leader, and then, I'm on my own team, really, and just focus on what I was doing.
Tyler Diamond, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. You can catch him Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, on The Ultimate Fighter Season 27, Undefeated. Tyler is coming off a win on last night's episode 8. He represents Team Cormier. He defeated Dulani Perry, second-round submission, and now advances to the next round, which is the semifinals. There are 4 featherweights left, and he'll be facing Jay Cuccinello. Bryce Mitchell will be facing Brad Katona. So 3 Team Cormier members and 1 Team Miocic member. What do you have for Tyler Diamond?
Tyler, we're getting close here on 30 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, and between all that, watching it, your gym in particular has had a big role in being, contestants, coaches on the show. I'm sure there's tons of people you could have leaned on for advice going into the house. All that being said, even with all that information, was there something that still caught you by surprise that you just had to experience to be able to feel what people were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I got as much advice as I could from Uriah, who's coached the season, Cody as well, and then Chris, who actually won the season, and they gave me the best advice that I needed as far as, hey, make sure your diet's on point at all times, make sure you train smart, be selfish, this and that. But there is some things that you don't expect till you get there, it's just, and it's even hard to explain to you now. It's just one of those things that you're living in this house with no communication, and you start talking about anything goofy at all, and here comes a camera rushing in your room because you have no doors. It's just super interesting. But I got to say, the whole experience was super great, and the producers were more than accommodating to anything that we needed. So it certainly made the whole process very enjoyable.
At the end of the day, it is all about the individual, but you're part of a team. And the first couple of weeks, it probably does feel a lot like a team, but now you're in the situation where teammates are going to have to start to fight each other. Can you talk a little bit about what that instant switch was, how it was like amongst your team?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, as soon as we picked teams, I knew with 100% certainty that it was going to be an all-DC semifinals at 145. Now, things ended up playing out to where Ricky Steele won his fight and got hurt and couldn't continue, so Jay had to step in. But with that being said, I tried my best to train with the lightweight, and I think the other featherweights did too. They didn't seem like they were super hip on training with me. But and when I did train with them, I tried not showing off too much, and I think they did the same. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting dynamic having the teams pick and knowing that we had the far superior teams and feeling like it was going to be an all-DC semifinal, especially at 145.
Right on, Tyler. Well, listen, hey, we appreciate the time here. It's been fun for us. We've been able to catch up with every winner from every episode, with the exception of last week because of what happened with the injury. But hopefully we'll talk to you again. You got Jay Cuccinello ahead of you, and only you and Jay and a few others might know what happened there, but we don't. And it's been a fun season because all of you had have so much promise. Everybody being undefeated going into the season. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope quite a few of you make it because I've seen some good skill level on your season.
Absolutely, a bunch of skilled guys, and I mean, without saying what happens and whatnot, I will say that it was a great fight and it was super fun, and I think everyone's gonna highly enjoy it.
Right on, my man. All right, well, thanks for the time, Tyler. Take care.
Sweet, thank you guys. Have a good one.
See you, bud.
Shout out to Aaron and Chelsea from the UFC for lining that up. Tyler Diamond featured on The Ultimate Fighter, Season 27, Episode 8. Catch them every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We'll take some more calls. We'll also talk to Yves Edwards, who's one of the commentators at PFL. PFL 1 takes place tonight on NBC Sports Network, 9 p.m. Eastern. And if you follow my Twitter, at MMA Junkie George, I told you about all the different pre- and post-fight stuff going on their Facebook page, as well as prelims. So check that out.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Hear your favorite sports from a different perspective on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. VSiN gives you the view from the counter on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook. Follow the money while you follow the games on SiriusXM Channel 204. Odds are you will like what you hear on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. All right, our next guest is part of the broadcasting team over at Professional Fighters League. Remember, the PFL 1 card, it goes tonight with a headline bout of Andre Harrison versus Jumabek Turshin. In the co-main event, we have Bekbulat Magomedov versus Lance Palmer. All this takes place tonight, 9 Eastern on NBC Sports. If you have DirecTV, it's Channel 220. Otherwise, check your local satellite and cable listings. You want to go to the show, tickets are still available. You get 12 fights, 6 in the heavyweight division, 6 in the featherweight division. Remember, at the end of the year, there'll be millionaires across the board in 6 different divisions. The Hulu Theater inside Madison Square Garden is where you need to be tonight. 6 p.m. Eastern start time for those prelims. Let's bring in Yves Edwards. What's up, Yves? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you for asking. You're on with George and Goes.
I like that introduction.
And Dan as well, our fight analyst. And we're also joined by Michael Chiesa, UFC lightweight. Good to have you, man. And we look forward to tonight's PFL. This is history making, you know. I mean, I know PFL's already got a couple cards, but this whole regular season with a playoff format, never been done before. Like the way they're doing it. What they did is they attached that catchy number of $1 million. To me, man, it's got me intrigued, and I've followed many of these fighters over the years. Some are kind of like, redeeming themselves. Some are prospects that we've never heard of. They found a nice balance out there. But I love the fact that in 6 months we'll have 6 millionaires, courtesy of the PFL.
Yeah, and that's a guarantee. That's the cool part about it. I mean, there's no other league where somebody's showing up is going to be a millionaire. You don't necessarily know who it's going to be, but 6 of these guys are going to have $1 million come New Year's. And that's a big deal, man. That has me kind of thinking about getting in shape and getting back in there.
Season 2.
I like it.
Season 2. Hey, are you serious? Season 2, would you do
it? Man, I still love fighting. I don't know. I mean, I'm 41. It's a young man's sport, but $1 million is enough to get me off of the couch. So, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. George.
All right. So, Yves, Goes did have a suggestion to Ray Cepho when he was here a few weeks ago. He said these guys should have $1 million in some sort of a glass case or maybe a briefcase or something, like we see in the movies. Did they take his advice? Have you seen the mill out there anywhere?
No, that's dangerous. You know where we're at, man? We're in New York City. There's still diamonds and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but you're rolling deep. You're rolling with Randy Couture and Ray Cepho and Boss Rudin. Who's going to touch you guys?
You're right about that. I'm gonna go down to the bank downstairs to the big Chase Bank here in Manhattan.
It should be Yves should actually have a bag that has a $$ sign on it, kind of like the $1 million man,
like Floyd Mayweather.
And
with the bag,
and have like the handcuff attached to it to the briefcase.
Oh, like in the movie,
I love that
like
stuff.
The movie Snatch.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm throwing ideas out there.
And chops my arm off.
It's up to the PFL to listen.
I don't know if it's chopping the arm off we have to worry about. It'd be Yves just taking off to the Caribbean or something, right? Never see him again.
Yeah,
He's got 6 briefcases.
Hey, there's no
like a squid.
We got no expedition in the Bahamas, so
There you go.
Talk to me about Andre Harrison and Jumabek Turshin. That's your main event. 17-2 versus 17-0.
Man, I'm excited to see Andre Harrison fight here, and fighting a guy that he doesn't really know a whole lot about. You know, it's hard to find tape on Jumabek. I found like 2 things on YouTube, and they weren't really telling. So Andre Harrison is going to have to figure that out inside the cage, and that's going to be a fun thing, man. Andre Harrison is a smart fighter. I like to watch him fight, and I'll get to see his brain process the data that he takes in and what he needs to do. Jumabek, he's a provincial champion wrestler, like state champion wrestler over there in China, and he's a tough guy with big punch. So we'll see how he can handle the American wrestling style Andre Harrison, man. That's the fight I'm most looking forward to. But there's a bunch of good fights on this card.
And Yves, also, just so people know, Harrison has had his fair share of decisions. At some point in time, you do have to step on the gas a little bit because, as we know, you not only get the win, you have to get points that accompany that, and those points get you into the quarterfinals.
Yes. So, you get in the first round stoppage, gets you a bonus points of 3. Second round stoppage, that's 2 bonus points. And third round, you get 1. A win gets you 3 points. So you don't want to be in the second round of the season with just 3 points. You want to sit. You kind of want to go into this fight and get the 6, so that you're sitting at the top of the leaderboard. So your chances of getting into the quarterfinals are pretty much assured. And that's we'll see how that plays out. There's a lot of dynamics to the way the scoring system is, and after tonight for the featherweights and the heavyweights, that's going to tell us the story of what guys need to do in the next round to make sure that they have a shot at that $1 million. So the storylines are going to change all the time. It's kind of like reality TV, but it's not scripted at all. It's going to be a fun time, man, and I can't wait to watch how this plays out.
Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, NBC Sports Network will show you the main card of PFL 1. Also, you have the Facebook option to get in there at 6 p.m. Eastern and watch a lot of these prelims that will be taking place because, as we noted, heavyweights and featherweights will be making their move here in Season 1 of PFL. Goes, what do you have for Yves Edwards?
Yves, you've fought in just about every organization you can think of, and they all haven't had the same rule set. Some of them have been overseas. For this particular system that they have, at the rules meeting, did you find a lot of fighters asking questions, getting involved? Because we'll even see on other fight cards, like, just because you're in a different state, the rules can be a little bit different, and they don't even find out until halfway through the fight. They say, "Oh, I thought it was 1 hand versus 2 hands." Like, have people been really getting into asking questions about the system?
The biggest question that guys have been asking is about elbows, because there are no elbows allowed. And that's a big deal for a lot of guys, especially the Americans, because, mixed martial arts here, there's a lot of elbows being thrown when you hit the ground. So that's the one difference. And the reason for that is, elbows cut, guys. And if you get cut this week and you can't fight 5 weeks from now because of a suspension or something like that, that's going to be a problem, especially when we get to the playoffs, the quarters and the semis. If you get cut in the quarters and you won the fight, but you can't continue, and then the guy that you beat, he can continue because it was a decision or whatever, that's a problem, because it's a merit-based system, and we just want to eliminate as many things as possible to keep the guys that are earning their shot, to keep them having the opportunity to earn that $1 million.
No elbows on the ground, but what about standing?
No elbows at all.
Oh wow!
Like don't even bring them to the cage.
Interesting. You can throw elbows on tough.
Yeah,
but you can't. That makes sense though.
Hopefully, at least in the finals, they'll allow the whole skill set. But all right, I got you. Dan, Tom, what do you have for Yves Edwards?
Yves, there seems like there's a lot of dark horses in this tournament, no matter what division, but especially the featherweight, man. It seems really stacked. A couple names that I'd like to throw out there is Magomed Isradov, or even Max Koga, who's got a real tough fight in Timur Valiev, another tough Dagestani guy from Jackson Wink. Can you speak about some of the dark horses that you see, or maybe just the Russian and Dagestani influence we see kind of in the roster overall?
That's the huge question for me, because those guys, I've seen some Dagestani wrestlers just dominate the American wrestlers. That folk style wrestling and that Dagestani style, it's similar. It's the top control. Freestyle is good, but it's not really focused on control like these two guys are. And I mean, they're the best guys in the world at it, both of them. So, like, this fight between Bekbulat Magomedov and Lance Palmer tonight, that's one I'm excited to see. I know Bekbulat is coming up from bantamweight, but being a Dagestani, I'm just curious to see how his wrestling matches up against a guy like Lance Palmer. But yeah, there's a lot of dark horses, and most of them are the Dagestani guys. We don't really necessarily know a whole lot about all of them, but there's a couple guys. I'm excited to see Timur Valiev and Max Koga tonight. That's one I'm really excited to see. But I mean, that's because of the wrestling matchup there. But at the same time, I want to see the fight between Alexander Almeida and why am I drawing a blank right now?
Lee Cavill?
Lee Colville. Yeah.
Because the way Alexander Almeida beat Lance Palmer the first time was defending takedowns, getting back to his feet, and outstriking him. But is he going to be able to do that to Lee Colville? You know, a guy with like 80 Muay Thai fights and a couple of world titles in Muay Thai. And if he has to wrestle, then, you know, he could get himself a submission because his jiu-jitsu is on point. But is Lee Colville's jiu-jitsu going to be on point? Is this British guy going to be able to wrestle? There's a lot of questions, man, and I love to get those answers. And the fights tonight is going to be exciting because of that. A lot of these guys don't know each other, and when you start to figure each other out inside the cage, that's when you start to see some explosive things. The guy will figure a guy out, and then within the next 30 seconds, when you just know he has your number, he's going to pick you apart.
100% Yves, and just we could pick apart the scenarios all day and what they're going to do and make the fighters choose how to fight. But let me just ask you, because you've been fighting since like the hook and shoot days, and speaking about how a little rule set can change, whether it's elbows or what have you, is there anything in your fight days, Yves, that you could share with us? Maybe a funny story where a promoter, they had to change a rule set maybe last minute, and you had to go out there and kind of improvise.
Man, there's so many different fights, and I got hit in the head so many times that I can't remember a certain thing. But you know, I'm just as surprised that the rules meetings are different now because you don't have the guy asking about the heel kicks to the kidneys anymore. That was always a question that was like permanent. I thought that was going to be stuck to the sport for the rest of my life, but that's out of the question now. No, there hasn't been anything, but I fought way back in the day, man. We had fights where guys like talked about. I fought Shannon Rich one time, and they wanted to throw nut shots. I'm like, this is stupid. This is retarded. Like, why would we do that? Like, that doesn't even make sense. I'll fight any of you if you get those nut shots.
I have to let my inner fanboy out, Yves. It's Michael over here. Been a big fan of you for a long time, but I've always wanted to know how would you have liked the matchup? Yves Edwards, the uncrowned UFC lightweight champion, which you should have been crowned a champion. Dude, you were phenomenal in your prime. You versus the late great Jens Pulver from that era.
Oh.
How did you like yourself in that fight?
Southpaws.
Oh man, I think about that fight a lot. That's a fight I'm sad that it didn't happen. I have a lot of respect for Jens, man. He's one of those guys that I came up looking up to. You know, we're still in the same age group, we're in the same era, but he was there first. He was the first UFC lightweight champion, and he was the guy that everyone was gunning for. I love my chances in that fight. I think back then, if I got a chance to get in there with Jens, we would see Jens wrestle a lot more than we did in the past. We'd see his wrestling pedigree come out.
My man.
That would pick him apart.
It's one fight I always wanted to see. I'm always on the underground, and they're like, oh, dream matchups. What's one of your, you know, I'm like, hey, I want to see Jens Pulver, Yves Edwards. That would have been one.
I always
want
to see Don Fry and Marco Huas.
Ooh, that's a good one, too.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Yeah, all right. All right, Yves. Good one. Well, thanks very much for the time. We cannot wait. It all goes down tonight, and you know, in 2 weeks, they go to Chicago, so this is going to be fun. It all gets settled in 6 months. 6 millionaires. I think runner-ups are getting $200,000. People are getting paychecks along the way. So I applaud the PFL for trying something different, and we're here to support.
Man, I appreciate it, Squishy man. That's awesome. So just keep the support up, and hey, maybe I can talk to you guys again in 2 weeks because the lightweights and the light heavyweights are going at it, and those are the guys. The lightweights, that's the tournament, or not the tournament, but that's the division that I'm most excited about because, you know, I got a little bit of vested interest in it. Plus, I know a lot of those guys. I've trained with a lot of those guys.
What the fuck was that, Squishy man? I've been called Fat Boy or Bluto, or I've never been called Squishy man.
Struck a nerve here.
Is that payback for that tweet I put out like 3 years ago? Wow, these guys haven't let it go.
People don't forget.
I don't forget anything, George.
Oh my God, you just clowned me. I have no comeback. And these guys are holding. These guys are laughing their asses off over here. Goes has a tear coming down of his eye. My girlfriend's dying on the other side. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Yves.
Hey, don't sweat. I love making.
All right, man. All right, we'll talk to you soon. All right.
Chiesa, you take care, brother. I really appreciate that. And for you to say that you've been a fan of Thug Jitsu, that's huge to me. I appreciate it, man. Because I'm a big fan of yours. You go out there and you get it.
Thanks, Yves. I appreciate it, brother.
Take care.
See ya, Yves.
He really is the uncrowned lightweight champ, though. I mean, he had a great run back in that era.
And that was a division where they didn't want 55. UFC's made mistakes. Look, they're big boys over there.
Yeah.
They've gotten some things wrong, and they've gotten plenty of things right, but they've shifted weight classes around. At one point, they didn't believe in that, and guess what? At one point, they had to buy, hey, WEC, can we just buy your whole organization? These little guys aren't so bad after all. But
females,
females, you know, and I'm telling you, 65, 75, do it, UFC. I know you're listening. Let's get this break out of the way, and now we will just cruise to the finish line with some callers. 866-522-2846. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. The guys, along with Squishy Man, will be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, final reminder for tonight's PFL, 9 Eastern on NBC Sports Network.
Look at that handsome guy, Lance Palmer, there. Holy crap.
He's one of the favorites. Him and Andre Harrison, man. They could be meeting up in the finals. The regular season starts tonight with PFL, and we do have Andre Harrison featured in the main event, Lance Palmer featured in the co-main event. And they have some heavyweight bouts, so lots of stuff happening at PFL 1. Tune in tonight again, NBC Sports Network at 9 p.m. Eastern start time. Let's go to these calls before we get on out of here. Corderick from Arizona. What's up, Corderick? How you doing?
Nick.
Very good, boss.
What's up?
Just wanted to get into it real quick. I have to get back out in the field, so this is just something about the daily debate you guys had about CM Punk.
Yeah.
I was just thinking to where, just like what Michael Chiesa was saying. Oh, by the way, Michael Chiesa, big time fan down here in AZ. Just big time fan.
Thanks, sir.
But yeah, and then just like how I'm just looking at it where he's kind of like the average Joe. Like, say Dana White would just pick somebody just out from a crowd, say, you're going to fight this month, this day, be ready, to where it's just like a big old lottery ticket to where, and like that's how I'm looking at him. Just like he's just like the average Joe, you know, basically the Rocky Balboa going to fight in the UFC, like to where the UFC is Apollo Creed, to where he's just kind of just riding that train until they're basically trying to give him a win. And I just think that's pretty awesome. You know, I never watched WWE like where CM Punk was in there, but I really think what he's doing is like pretty tremendous. Like, it takes a lot of balls to do that. Because if we were asked that as MMA Junkie Nation, to where a lot of us would probably turn it down because we're nowhere near capable of going to the octagon and throwing down with anybody, I think.
I could make it into the octagon, except I would immediately start throwing up when the other guy walked in. And I said, get me out of here, get me out of here. Probably climb out.
Yeah, I'm not trying to win. I'm just trying to survive.
Tap me in. Tap me in. I'll fill in for you.
Let's do a tag team, man.
There we go.
It's good stuff, Cordrick. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you got to respect that he wanted to do it, and he just happened to be friends with the right guy who can make a decision just like that. Will Dana White ever do it again? I don't know. But he's there, and he talked him into a second chance, and you know, he's not as big of an underdog. Like Chiesa pointed out, Gall turned out to be a pretty damn good fighter, and that was just the wrong fight for that guy. But Gall did the right thing in promoting himself and being, you know, asking to be the guy. Now with Mike Jackson, there's a tie-in because Gall also beat him. We'll see what happens. Let's go to the last call here of the day. Dan from Morgan. What's up, Dan?
What up, fellas?
You got 60 seconds, bro. Hustle.
Yes, sir. Your friend Misha Tate already outed you as a proponent of the 165-pound division. And what I'm looking at right now is talk of this supposed tournament, GSP, Habib, Conor, Nate. That seems like a 165-pound tournament if I've ever heard of one. So, who's going to be in your 155-pound tournament and your 175? My 155, I got Tony when he's well, Alvarez, Gaethje, whoever wins that one, Poirier, Alvarez, that winner's in. Maybe Merbek Tassimov, he's got 5 KOs in a row. And at 175, Woodley, Usman, Till, and I'm pulling in Gastelum. He's come back to 175.
Hey, nice pull. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you.
I like those.
Yeah, I think he covered it well.
Yeah, me too.
It all made kind of some sense. Except Ferguson, you know, when Habib had the incident, Ferguson was lightheaded as well. So I don't know how he's got too many 55 days ahead of him. Who knows? But that's scary to even talk about. Michael Chiesa, thanks very much for stopping by and co-hosting. I hope you have a safe camp leading into UFC 226 versus Anthony Pettis.
Will do.
If you have a day that frees up and you want to do it again, that seat's open for you. You do an excellent job here, and you did a great job at Fox Sports.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's always good to be here, and you'll be seeing me here. I got a lot of downtime, so maybe I'll come back in a couple weeks.
Awesome, man. That's great.
Sweet.
All right, folks. Tomorrow, Dan will be here. Goz and I will be in Costa Mesa. We'll have a show. We'll recap PFL. We'll do our last predictions for UFC 225. It's going to be a great time. In the meantime, you guys go out and be champions. Go Vegas Knights.